He loves to smell good. Sales in the category are booming in the US and are up 60%.
Nearly free, some of the cheapest prices you will ever see. Oudwear is running the biggest flash sale on some of their
people buy the same fragrances, and now that is mainly down to, have you guys noticed any generational shift between millennials into Gen Z and how we are approaching fragrances nowadays? There's been a lot of different trends and different things that have popped up over the years that I feel like the Gen Z generation have had a really massive impact on. So in today's video we're going to be exploring smell maxing, as well as how the younger generation, the Gen Z generation, have had an impact on the fragrance community and how they have shifted into a niche, more personalized type of aspect when it comes to perfume. So without further ado, we'll just jump straight into it. Like with any generation, millennials, boomers, Gen Z, everyone kind of has varying different ages within this generation, right? I would class myself as a Gen Z technically. I'm probably on the oldest side of Gen Z, which probably is kind of like revealing my age, but I know a lot of my viewers, including you guys, are actually in different age brackets. So most of you who watch me are millennials, boomers. I have an older audience. I really wanted to highlight Gen Z and how they've impacted the industry, because I find that generationally, so whether you're a boomer, whether you're a millennial, or whether you're a Gen Z, for example, a lot of us have different trends and different styles in, you know, what fragrances we wear, how we buy fragrances, and how we attribute our day-to-day type of wearing of these perfumes. What I will say as well is, out of all the generations, I personally believe that Gen Z are probably the most influenced when it comes to buying fragrances. Apparently 83% of our generation buy and own fragrances, which is just mind-blowing to me. And I feel as though probably with the dawn of the internet and probably with social media as well, including TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube, a lot of younger individuals have now been exposed to the niche perfume type of world. And alongside that, every year since 2023, there's also been a 5% increase year on year in sales, which is just absolutely crazy if you think about it. And that, I think, has definitely been attributed to having a wider knowledge around fragrances and kind of having the ability to get fragrances more easily in comparison to maybe other generations before us. I'm also reading a couple of stats here. I think I mentioned it in one of my previous videos, but with the luxury segment market, specifically luxury fragrance, with some luxury brands experiencing a 13% increase in sales in the first half of 2023. So it just shows you how exponentially the luxury fragrance market has grown. And I definitely think that's to be attributed to the Gen Z population. Now, granted, these brands have been around for many years. Some of these niche brands have been around for 30-40 years, and even like a house like Guerlain, for example, has been around for much longer than this. But I think the actual trends of purchasing these particular perfumes have become more and more wider available. Like even, for example, the body spray market, which I don't actually own many body sprays. I'm more of a perfume eau de toilette. That's probably the most diluted that I would go. In terms of fragrance, even the body spray market has seen significant growth, particularly among younger consumers, with some retailers reporting a 70% year-on-year growth in young shoppers, which again just highlights the fact that, you know, social media has a massive impact on how our Gen Z generation have been spending. So anyway, without further ado, we'll just watch like a couple of clips from TikTok, and then we'll kind of go into it a little bit deeper.
Gen Z loves to smell good. Sales in the category are booming in the US and are up 60% from pre-pandemic levels. Gen Z men in the Hispanic community are driving most of the growth.
It is kind of cool to see a pandemic trend that actually stuck around.
Yeah, there's actually this psychological thing called the lipstick effect, where even in times of economic hardship, people tend to splurge on little luxuries. There was this rise of things that target your touch, your scent, and your sight in order to trigger this emotional response. And smell in particular is really great at triggering memories.
The data can even be manipulated to show the different demographics. Like, I wouldn't have guessed that Hispanic younger men would have been probably the largest consumers within the Gen Z population. I just would have assumed just, I don't know, I guess actually teenage boys, a lot of them have been really getting into fragrances. And I think, again, that's probably attributed to people like a Jeremy Fragrance, etc. So I think a lot of these people maybe have some type of impact. And then I'm just going to watch, there was a lady who was actually talking about how our generation are more and more obsessed with fragrances. So I'll just have a quick watch of this one.
I recently read a really interesting article talking about how Gen Z is more obsessed with perfume than prior generations, meaning that we have, out of all generations, the most young people invested in the perfume market, far higher than any other generation before us. And I was trying to think of like why this could be. A lot of it could probably be due to like the consumerism rise, TikTok rise, perfume talk, XYZ. I really think a lot of it is that the beauty standards made by Gen Z, like my generation, is that we don't really want, like, there's no Gen Z look, I'm gonna say. There's Gen Z trends. And I've noticed that compared to like millennial trends, you know how millennial trends were all about like certain makeup styles, hairstyles, outfits and stuff? I think more Gen Z trends are more so based on like the vibes and the energy and like the curation of that energy.
I don't know if I'd necessarily, I do get her point, definitely, and I quite like the way that she framed it in the sense that, yes, everything in combination has kind of attributed to this massive rise in terms of fragrance spending, especially amongst Gen Z. But what I will say is I completely get what she means when it comes to people wanting to be unique and kind of niche in their own ways, whether that's like their mood or their specific vibe. What I will say to counter that, if you were to compare a Gen Z shopper who is just starting in fragrances or who has a lot of fragrances in comparison to a millennial, I have found that a lot of older women and men, after some time, they really kind of understand which fragrance notes work for them, and as a result they tend to kind of go for maybe fragrances which aren't as well known. Whereas even though the Gen Z community is rooted by all of these different options from all of these different various niche houses, you will find on social media in particular, people buy the same fragrances. And now that is mainly down to how much a fragrance is being pushed or how much a brand is being pushed online. And I've noticed particularly like amongst my friendship groups and people who I know within the Gen Z community, people will know a fragrance and I think to myself, oh, how do you know that fragrance? And most of the time it will be recommended to them on a video, through a post that they've come across, and it will be a popular fragrance amongst you know, the Gen Z or the social media community. So I kind of get her aspect where people in our generation, I guess, try to be unique, and you know, we are unique in a sense where we are trying to find things that fit our mood and fit our personality. But at the same time, you can't really have that because a lot of these fragrances are being recycled, and even the olfactive groups are being recycled non-stop. Like for example, some years ago, gourmands really came to life, I would say maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, and since then that same type of olfactive group has been recycled over and over again, including creamy or milky accords, and that seems to be a really massive trend amongst the brands that are pushed on these platforms and are really widely used amongst our generation. So I kind of get her stance, but at the same time, do I think we're really that unique? I'm not entirely sure. So anyway, we'll keep watching.
Perfumery as a whole really helps a Gen Z person curate that vibe. Beauty for Gen Z is more so about the energy one brings forth than the actual like look they have on their face. Hence why a lot of the trends regarding Gen Z trends are like Labubu, trinket, things you can consume. A lot of it is stuff like that. You have like the clean girl look, but everyone's clean girl is different. And you just have a lot more trends regarding like health supplies, like Stanley Cup, different types of water bottles, different leggings, and XYZ.
So what I'm gathering from what she's saying is that even though something will be trending, within the Gen Z generation, people will find different things that suit within that trend. So for example, when she was saying about clean girl aesthetic, different women will have different versions of what they do deem as clean girl. And again, I get where she's coming from, but when it comes down to consumerism, especially like with all of these trinkets like the Lububus and whatnot, which is just an absolutely crazy thing, by the way, that alongside Stanley cups and whatnot, yes, you can get different colors, but in the same breath, it is the same product at the end of the day. And this is where I'm kind of reeling it back to the olfactive styles. Yes, it is maybe a different brand, or maybe it's like a different house, and in a sense they are kind of curating it based on their mood, but at the same time it's still staying within that same olfactive group. If you get what I'm saying, it's still using the same notes, it's still gourmand, it still kind of has the same scent, and as a result, you know, people start to smell quite similar, even though we have so many options out there. I think out of all of the generations that have ever been, I think Gen Z as a whole, we're very spoiled with all of the offerings. And on top of that, whereas before, I mean, you still were able to buy samples online even like a decade or so ago, even a couple of decades maybe with the dawn of the internet, but now even more so, like you can just buy any old sample online. So another thing that I found that apparently is trending within my generation is called smell maxing. Now, I've come across this term before, and I wonder if you guys have come across it as well. I was a little bit confused, honestly, with what this really meant, because there seemed to be different takes on what smell maxing is. So is smell maxing just, I guess, maximizing the scent profile that you have? So whether that's, you know, buying some really luxurious niche fragrances, or curating like what that previous woman was saying about what notes and, you know, different fragrances that you like. But then also on the flip side, smell maxing apparently is also down to your personal hygiene, your personal care, and potentially layering different fragrances. So I feel as though there is definitely two different definitions when it comes to smell maxing. The way I interpret smell maxing is just maximizing your overall scent. So that's down to your body care, maybe wearing specific lotions, specific creams, even deodorants and body sprays and all of this kind of thing, just to layer and maybe just get the most out of the fragrance that you possibly can. So I'm just going to read through an article for you guys that I found really interesting, and it kind of again shows a few data points on, you know, what's happening within the fragrance world when it comes to Gen Z shoppers. So we'll just go through it. Will the girl who I just met at the perfume store please comment the perfume you recommended? Wrote Chapel Rowan, is that who it is? On Instagram last month. You said it smelled like lipstick. Interesting. The post went viral, and the scent Girl of the Year by Los Angeles perfume house Thin Wild Mercury instantly sold out. It's hard to think of a more appropriate perfume for the performer. The house describes it having a top note of lipstick, an incense, middle notes of smokes, leather jacket, and a base of sandalwood, orris root, and vintage fur. And then moving on, it says the global fragrance market is the biggest it has ever been and still growing. It is set to generate revenue of about 45 billion. My goodness gracious me. In 2025, according to Statista, the UK market alone reached 1.74 billion in 2024. Crazy. And if growth continues apace, will top 2 billion by 2029, according to a 2024 Mintel report. This growth is driven by Gen Z and millennials, who have formed a unique relationship with fragrance due to social media and COVID isolation. Perfume Talk drove 45% of social media scent sales in the US by 2023. And, you know, this really highlights exactly what I was thinking, and it brings me back to my initial points. Gen Z as a whole, and millennials, or anyone who is on social media nowadays, but the majority is Gen Z. A lot of people are kind of infiltrated by all of these adverts, all of these posts surrounding fragrances and what to buy, a lot of consumerism. And I'm not saying that consumerism is a new thing, it's been over many generations, but generationally a lot of people before us have had to, and to be honest, even when I was younger, like when I was a teenager, social media wasn't really that prevalent. So a lot of the times fragrance social media didn't really exist in my world. So So a lot of the time you had to physically go into a store and sample something, which again kind of narrows the different choices you have, I guess. The only thing that I could maybe say probably helped people like millennials at that time is the introduction of sample websites online, so you can buy basically different samples from various different houses and you get to try multiple different fragrances at a time. Whereas now it's slightly different, where a lot of people, especially in my generation, tend to blind buy, and that's absolutely fine. If you want to impulse purchase, you're more than welcome to impulse purchase, even though it's like buying shoes that you've never seen and that you've never worn. So how do you know whether they're going to fit? But anyway, that's a whole different topic. And I've already covered that topic, so I don't know why I'm reeling it back to that. But I guess the difference being is that because you have the power of social media and because you are shown all of these different options, that's why consumerism has gone up so exponentially. Whereas before, as I said, you had to physically go into stores, and honestly, like, as much as I love shopping in person and I've always preferred shopping in person, a lot of the time it can be really draining, which is such a first world problem. But you know, when you are kind of like on your feet for hours and hours, I don't know how people do it, honestly, and smelling all of these different fragrances, and obviously you get anosmic to it as well. So after some time, there are only so many fragrances that you can sniff in one day, and as a result, maybe you aren't able to try as many or maybe consume as many fragrances as if you were to blind buy them, for example. So I think mainly a lot of the consumerist aspect of how things have really escalated over the years is definitely down to social media. And the fact that that article mentioned TikTok as well, that's a huge thing. I didn't even know this, but apparently there are TikTok fragrance lives. I've even saved like a couple of videos just to show you guys how these look like, because I was really naive to how TikTok worked. A lot of you know, fragrance content creators are on TikTok, but I didn't realize how many of them also do lives with these specific brands. So I'll just show you a couple of videos.
Oh my gosh, I want a free fragrance. Please, 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 let me get a free fragrance. Guys, if you want a fragrance or nearly free, some of the cheapest prices you will ever see, Oudware is running the biggest flash sale on some of their products on a mega live stream. Going to be on Saturday from 12 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss it. Some of the most insane fragrances are going to be for the cheapest prices you have ever seen. Make sure you're there. I'll be there. And if you want to register, you can go on the Oudware account and register for the live. Don't miss it. It's going to be insane. Thanks for watching. And as always, peace. I got it.
And he's not just the only example. There are lots of different people on TikTok, like for example Stephen Red Lessons, who has been on YouTube for many years, by the way. That's how I know him. He is also in TikTok, and I didn't realize how massive he is on TikTok as a fragrance content creator. And he tends to do a lot of lives with various different brands. So with the previous generation, you had TV shopping, right? So if you guys just ever had your TV rolling for however many hours, say it's like late in the night, and randomly you start getting all of these TV auctions come up saying, oh, we're selling this jewelry, we're selling this DIY kit, or this for the home. It's kind of like that, but I guess a social media version of it, where you will have thousands of live watches, and you know, there'll be live sales going on, and you would be able to buy it through TikTok Shop. So I guess it's more like an interactive version of what used to be TV shopping. So I guess generationally we used to have that, whereas now the social media comparison is TikTok Shop Live. I will say, and I don't mean to discredit anyone who does it, by the way, I have particularly noticed with these like TikTok Shop fragrance lives, they tend to be very similar houses and brands. Typically a lot of them are dupe brands, a lot of them are dupe houses, and that's probably down to being able to shift somewhat of like a lesser margin for profit, and maybe because they are so mass produced, it's like, right, we can get the quantities out, so as a result we can even lower the prices even more so. And I would imagine, don't take this as gospel, by the way, but some of these content creators will take a commission off of doing these live YouTube takes. So again, it's, I guess, like a way of really pushing these brands. And as I said, it's going back to the point where a lot of people within my generation, I feel like they're buying the same types of fragrances, mainly because they are being pushed so much on social media. So anyway, we'll watch a couple more videos and then, you know, we'll kind of see your guys' reaction, my reaction, and then we can go into it.
Here we are again trying out new perfumes, so come with me as I smell all of the niche ones that I'd only ever seen on TikTok before. So first up, Wilhelm Perfumery. I was so excited by Poets of Berlin. This is the most gorgeous blueberry fragrance. Then État Libre Orange. I really liked Frustration, and You Or Someone Like You smells like a mint mojito. Then Chabot. These are the most true to form, delicious gourmands I've ever smelled. Then A Moment for the Surge Off display because oh my goodness, and I loved Cambridge Club, even though it kind of smells like Rose Jam by Lush. Next, Goldfield and Banks' Australian niche brand. I really liked Sunset Hour. It's a little bit basic, but still stunning. After that, I moved on to BDK, and I loved all of these, especially Velvet Tonka and the Tuberose fragrance I found so stunning. It's like a really creamy, not bubblegummy tuberose, and I actually ended up getting a small bottle of that one. So thank you, Centrique, for the best day.
So the reason why I wanted to highlight that particular video is because what I found really interesting is the fact that she said, this is the first time that I've tried these fragrances based off of TikTok. So I would imagine she's probably seen these niche brands, seen these niche perfumes, and has realized, oh, actually, I want to try them in real life in an actual perfume store. And credit to her. I think, you know, what I really liked about her video is not only has she taken those recommendations, but she hasn't blind bought. She's actually gone out and tested these fragrances in person, which I think there's typically, like, if you prepare yourself and if you have that experience, there's not a better experience like it. It's such an amazing thing being able to discover something for yourself and being able to discover fragrances that maybe you've never come across before. And I guess that's one of the beauties with the Gen Z generation, is the fact that, again, going back to the information, you have such an information overload where you think, oh my goodness, I have all of these options that I'm exposed to, but which option do I go for? And in that scenario, that's when you say, right, actually, I'm going to take what I've learned online and I'm going to actually try it in person. And you know, as much as I think perfume shopping in person is great, I also equally agree that being able to sample online is a really huge thing, especially for people like myself. I've tried so many fragrances in my life that honestly there are very few that I come across now that really interest me or intrigue me. So that's why I typically buy the samples online, some that I've never heard of before or some that I've never come across, and I guess you can kind of try different options and see what kind of fits for you. So anyway, I just thought that that was really cool, the fact that she's highlighted she was first kind of exposed to these fragrances on TikTok and then took the time to actually go in person to shop for these specific fragrances. I'm actually kind of intrigued to see which one she picked up now, because it sounds like she really liked, was it the Tuberose Imperial from BTK? That's a beautiful perfume, so well done if you picked that one. I just wonder if there was any other videos that I wanted to show you guys. So this video was really interesting to me. So just to kind of preface it for you guys, this house is meant to be luxury on steroids, like super duper luxury, to the point where a lot of these fragrances are within the thousands of pounds per fragrance. And I've heard of them before. I personally haven't tried any of the fragrances. I think they're called Amafi, and I was a little bit confused by the TikTok video because I saw these horde of younger girls, which I would imagine as Gen Z. I wasn't sure whether they were lining up for Amafi or whether they were lining up for like another brand. It just didn't really make much sense to me. So anyway, we'll watch it and then I'll kind of get your guys' thoughts as well. I have to cut out the audio just because I will definitely get copyrighted. So I hope you guys will be able to see on screen what I'm seeing. So what I'm interpreting is that Amafi is the house that has all of these hordes of Gen Z shoppers waiting to go in. But what I don't understand is why they're going into this specific fragrance store, only because they are so ridiculously expensive. I mean, some of them are like 7 or 8 grand. Maybe they're a different house. The one that I'm thinking is, I'll just pop up their logo up here and you guys will be able to check out their website. From my understanding, that's the brand. So I know that they're based in Singapore, and Singapore's quite a high GDP country. They're a wealthy country. But what I don't understand is why so many Gen Z younger individuals are lining up for this specific perfume house. But I guess where I was going with this, I've really gone on a proper tangent, is the fact that, again, leading back to social media and how much of an impact it makes, you could literally make a post on social media and you can drive consumers even to your physical store. And I guess back in the day, you could have somewhat similar experiences. So in magazines, for example, if there was a specific event, you could note it down and write it in your calendar, and maybe you could go to the event. But things have progressed so much so, with the evolving of TikTok and Twitter or X and all of these different platforms, you could literally make a post from a brand specifically, and you can say, right, we're doing an opening sale, or we're doing this, for example, come in store and then we'll offer this. A lot more traffic will be driven through that type of platform as opposed to what it used to be many, many years ago. So again, that's kind of driven consumerism maybe to a different sort of level, where the exposure of these brands has become far greater than what they ever used to be. So anyway, I hope that this video has been informative for you guys. Honestly, I didn't really know which direction I wanted to take it, because there are so many different topics when it comes to different generations, and I know a lot of you guys who watch me are older. Maybe I'll do a millennial video, maybe I'll do a boomer video, I'm not entirely sure. So let me know down below, guys, what your thoughts are around the Gen Z community and how we approach fragrances. Are there any things that you've noticed over the years? So anyway, if you do enjoy this video, please give it a like, thumbs up down below, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.